Hello, everyone. Eric Rogers here, and I've got a special guest today, Wednesday, August 3rd, Tim McWeeney, who is from Verifone. Guys, you are in for a treat. He has presented to us here at First Direct Financial Merchant Careers to our national sales directors. He is a wealth of information. I mentioned this just a second ago that I asked him for a short introduction, and he gave me an entire book. So what we're going to do is cut this down. More than 20 years of experience in the electronic payment industry. Okay, this is back when shag carpet was cool. Okay,
it's not cool anymore.
It's not. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, but guys, this gentleman has sold both merchant point of sale and merchant acquiring. So he's been on both sides of this on the manufacturing level as well. His expertise have been in problem solving. Right, and this is what, when we get to equipment, that's the main focus, is it not? So you have a backbone of information here that you can lean on, so you don't feel like you need to know it all on the equipment side. You know, we coach this all the time. Go ahead and get the merchant statement, and then we'll work everything out on a solution side. So this is what he does. Now listen to this, guys. Tim has written countless articles that have been found in the Green Sheet, ISO and Agent, and other industry publications. So he's been invited to speak at the SME conferences and trade shows, and is generally acknowledged by his customers as responsive, professional, and a high-quality communicator. And I can absolutely agree with everything that you've written about yourself. Yeah, so guys, let me tell you something. Like I said, he has presented for us. We're going to get to some Q&A at the end. Before we let Tim go ahead and take the show, remember, guys, to sign up for the advanced training that you will see over here on your merchantcareer.com training site. If you haven't done so, go to merchantcareers.com, log in, go to live training, and go ahead and just scroll to the bottom. And then you've got Saturday's presentation. You're going to need to register to attend, and it's this Saturday. That's 12 o'clock Eastern Standard, 9 o'clock Pacific and Arizona time. So just as a heads up, that will be recorded as well. So without further ado, Tim, I can't wait for these guys. Take notes, everyone. You're going to get some great information today. And what we're going to do is we're going to downplay and take off our little webcam, so that way you can see everything on the screen with this PowerPoint. Tim, thank you so much for being here.
And thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. And thank you all for joining today. I think it's important to remember that when we're out there and you're out there talking to merchants, it's a very confusing time right now. We're entering into an era that is a period of transition between magstripe to EMV and other areas of commerce enablement that are going to be coming down the line. We have NFC payments on Apple Pay and Google Wallet, and merchants are wondering who can they trust and what can they do. When you're out there trying to close a merchant account, I truly believe, and I'll say this now and I'll say it again through the presentation, I truly believe that the name Verifone will help you do that. And why would that be? Well, one reason is that Verifone is one of the largest manufacturers, the second largest manufacturer in the world of point-of-sale product. But in the United States, Verifone enjoys a #1 position. And so your merchants know who Verifone is and are very familiar with the Verifone name, and if they've been in business at all, probably have been using Verifone terminals. Now, when you're trying to close a merchant account, we talk a little bit about problem solving and what that will do at a merchant location. Because when you call on a merchant, the first thing you have to do is find out what their problems are. And then it's your job then to solve them. And I did this thousands and thousands of times in my merchant acquiring career. So I know that to be true, and I know you know it to be true. So part of that equation is what type of equipment that will you be talking about? Will it be some off-brand that the merchant doesn't know or have never heard about, or will it be a product like Verifone that on this slide you can see that we are active in more than 150 countries. We're #1 or #2 in most markets, #1 clearly in the United States. We're a big company with more than 5,000 employees, and more than $2 billion in revenue per year. So this gives you some idea of the strength and the kind of the stature and the width of Verifone across the world. But today, once you talk about that with a merchant, once you become acquainted with that on your own, today what we're going to talk about is the product line itself that you're going to be selling. As I said earlier, we're entering into an era where the terminals may look similar to the older terminals, but they are completely different in almost every respect. And this is very true of what we call our VX Evolution line. So the slide we're on now shows that our Evolution line, while maintaining the VX platform, has some principles involved in it that has been true with every VX terminal. The platform has been proven over the years. The life design of the terminal is extended. I think everyone out there knows that there are Verifone terminals in existence today at merchants that have been there for many, many years. Of course, Verifone terminals have the full spectrum of security, and with the Evolution line, we're at the next level of performance. So what does that mean? So next level of performance means that we have the existing Verix technology. Think of Verix as kind of DOS, and DOS works with Windows. And so you can buy a computer that has faster speed and faster processing and more memory. But if that PC uses Windows, it has DOS as its underlying operating system. Well, the same is true with Verix. And what this does for you, though, is it gives you and your merchants a hand up the ladder, so to speak, because your merchants are very much familiar with the Verifone name and the Verix operating system. Millions and millions of these types of terminals have been sold across the world over the years. The next slide, we talk about what in the Evolution arena, what the extended life design is. So we've done everything from improve the plastic to the metal tear bars to backlit keyboards. But when we look at the EMV portion of this, our EMV readers are what we call a landed and not a friction reader. And those have been tested to more than 500,000 insertions. Now think about that at a level 4 merchant. You're talking about years and years of use on this thing before it even begins to wear out. Over a million key presses on the keypad itself. And of course security is very important. Everyone is very concerned about security. All of our terminals have the latest PCI PTS security. We have the ability to lock the applications down. We have the ability to tokenize transactions. There just isn't really anything that Verifone can't do to help you in the arena of security. Mm-hmm. So when we look at the terminals today, you can see that a VX510, as you probably see at many, many of your merchants, or a 570, you know, those terminals were very successful and they had a great deal of strength in the market. But the terminals had very small memories because that's all that was needed. And the processing speeds weren't that fast because, once again, when they were introduced, all the people really used were dial applications, and the applications themselves that resided on the terminals really didn't take up that much space. Well, things have changed. The EMV applications are really quite large. So our terminals today, the ones you're selling today, the VX520, we're going to get into a little bit about the attributes of each one of the devices you're selling today. And if you have, again, well, I want to stress, if you have questions, send them in, write them down. I'll be glad to stay here for as long as it takes to get your questions answers. And if I don't have answers, then I'll find them out and get them back to Eric and the team. Our terminals have an ARM11 processor with 400 megahertz of speed. That is roughly 2 to 3 times faster than our older line of terminals and faster than any terminal in the market today. More than 160 megabytes of memory. It can be built up to more than 500. Our older terminals had between 2 and 10 megabytes. So you can see right away that between the speed of the processor and the size of the memory, these terminals are built to last for years and years and years.
Yep, and Tim, a good point, just to interject, guys, it's taking longer to process the card, and if they're in a scenario like a coffee shop where they've got a line of people, the speed of them processing the cards is important to a lot of your merchants. So Verifone fits the bill in that scenario, you know, a real life scenario.
Just today, an article came out that talked about the speeds of EMV transactions in the United States, and the average EMV transaction in a dial format is 13 seconds. Folks, this is no different anywhere else in the world. whether you're in Europe or Africa or Asia, a dial transaction for EMV takes about 15 seconds. The difference is the people who live in those countries have just gotten used to it. And we are all crazy about the difference between a 6-second transaction and a 15-second transaction. But if the merchant wants to switch to IP, guess what? Those EMV transaction speeds drop dramatically. So let's talk about the equipment then, if you don't mind, since that's what I do for a living. Our primary terminal, the flagship terminal we have in our fleet right now, is the VX520. And this particular image here shows a 520 that has an NFC contactless bar, that has an EMV reader in the bottom of the terminal there. You can see it, a mag stripe reader off to the right, and an internal pin pad underneath the keypad. The terminal, it comes in either dial or Ethernet. It's a dual com terminal, or that can be used either way for the merchant. We of course recommend that IP transactions are the best way to go for EMV for that speed we talked about earlier. The next slide refers to a little bit more about the inner workings of the 520. So the screen itself, even though it's a black and white screen, is a high contrast. It's probably the best screen I think we've ever made in a payment terminal that wasn't a multi-lane terminal like an MX line. This is this screen is very easy to read and very easy for merchants and also card holders to read as they're entering that transaction information. 160 megabytes of memory, as I mentioned earlier, 400 megahertz ARM11 based processor, super fast, super big on the memory. Of course, PCI, PTS, and obviously EMV ready, but having the backlit keyboards and the metal dome keypad helps increase the longevity of this device. Now, one thing I want to talk about when you talk about a terminal that has the NFC bar, like this one does at the top, you see the lights on. That indicates an Apple Pay or a Google Wallet transaction is in effect. That did occupy some of the space for the paper well, so you don't need to use a 35-foot roll paper well. Between myself and a company called General Credit Forms about a year and a half ago, we developed a 74-foot paper roll for this terminal. Now, I know that the standard is 85 feet, but between the 74-foot roll and the 85 feet, you're really only talking about, a few transactions. 74-foot rolls are available, and Eric and the First Financial team can get them through your distributor. No problem. As I mentioned earlier, the difference between a landed smart card reader and a friction reader is that friction readers wear out first. We are the only terminal line to put in a landed reader, and it's more expensive, but we did it anyway. So let's pivot over to wireless, because we know that wireless has become a little less active in the market due to the availability of smartphone transactions and readers that you would use on your smartphone. But the reality is those types of applications are really used for small merchants. There's no such thing as a level 5 merchant, but it's kind of a term that I coined about a couple of years ago, saying that the merchants that are using things like Square are really level 5 merchants. Well, wireless terminals still have a place in our business today, and we make a wireless terminal that is second to none. The VX680 is a terminal that has a full color screen, an NFC, virtual NFC bar at the top, EMV reader. Of course, you can see that, MSR, and an internal pin pad. Now, let's just stop right there for a minute, because it's very, very important that every terminal needs to be injected. It isn't just for debit. It's for the fact that we are moving very quickly into an EMV chip and pin environment for credit card transactions. And unless that terminal can understand what it's asking for in the application, which is a PIN, personal identification number, unless it can understand it by being injected, it's not going to be able to accept the transaction. So just remember to tell your merchants that. Even if you don't take debit, even if you don't want debit, get the PIN pad injected anyway. But back to the 680. So the 680 is a 3G terminal. Do not worry about 4G. Every 4G tower out there today has a 3G repeater in it. So 3G will be around for years and years to come. It'll be around as long as 4G is around. It is the phone companies pushing 5G and 6G and above for their smartphones. But when it comes to moving transactions through a 3G environment, it's still the fastest way out there. And our terminal, once again, has the same speed as our 520. The 680 has the same speed as the 520, the same memory, the same smart card reader. It is highly durable. This terminal withstands a 6-foot drop test to concrete. So this terminal is built to take it. You won't get tamper images or tamper responses on it when you drop it. It's a great terminal. And for your merchants that really need a good payment terminal for their wireless transactions, the VX680 is the one.
Now, let me just ask a question then. Like, for example, I have a scenario with a RAM right now that's looking like they've got a food truck, and they want to be able to print receipts, etc. This is perfect for them. Golf courses, for the carts that are out there, the food carts. Perfect. I've seen it at the Phoenician. They've got these, and they are the Verifone product. So, do you know of any other industries maybe that this or the 520 would be perfect for, to kind of help the RAM say, oh, okay, I'm talking to one of these guys. We do have that solution, because the RAM got the question, I need to be able to print a receipt. It needs to be wireless. It needs to be able to be on a truck that's rolling down the road. And the answer was yes, 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 we have it. Here's the VX680.
Right. So I'll start with the more limited market, and that would be the VX680 because it's wireless. But anybody that transacts anything more than a few transactions a day is going to become very frustrated with their smartphone usage. So anybody that is doing more than 25 or 30 transactions a day, because let's face it, the smartphone that we all have is really designed to do other things by the manufacturer. They allow these sort of things to take place on it because there are applications that have been built. But they're there to be phones, they're there to be social media, music, and all the rest. And all of that stuff, so to speak, is going on in the background when you're trying to run a payment transaction. What you're seeing here is a payment terminal that's designed for wireless use. So it is a dedicated terminal that has the ability to print receipts, that has the ability to have coverage in 3G environment, has the ability to send transactions through with very, very minimal bandwidth. And so anybody in that environment who does that, or food trucks, or trade shows, or swap meets, or fairs, county fairs. We do a tremendous business with people that do county fairs and their booths that they do from fair to fair to fair. And these folks, they all tend to move in herd. Yes. They all move from one to the other. They all know one another. It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah.
They all know one another. They're all friends with one another. And this is the perfect application for the 680.
Yep, and referrals, guys. So just keep that in mind. You get in with one, and they're happy with the equipment, buddy. You need to make sure that you're available for those referrals, so we can get more of those out there.
Exactly. Now on the 520, it's everyone else. It's from a level 2 merchant to a level 4 merchant. It's any SMB that you're doing business with. It's anyone that wants to take a credit card, an EMV card, or a smartphone Apple Pay, or a Google Wallet transaction, or Samsung Pay. 520 works on all of it. So there is no real limitation to the number of transactions here. I mean, you're talking about a terminal that can run thousands of transactions a day. When you get into that type of arena, however, that merchant becomes more of a level 1 merchant, and they have a tendency to go more toward our MX line, like the 915 and 925, the devices you see at Dick's Sporting Goods and Target and Panera and other places around like that. They have these multi-lane units that kind of all talk to a central brain. But the VX520, there really isn't any limitation on this, from the smallest of the small to the largest of the large. So what is the VX805 then? Because if the VX520 can do it all, and the VX680 is a wireless unit, what's an 805? Well, the 805 is really two things. It's a terminal that doesn't have a printer and a modem, so it really has all of the inner workings that the VX520 has. But it's more than that. When EMV came around last October, many software programs were not capable of accepting an EMV card. So we had software developers all over the country writing payment applications that needed a device that could attach to the software program and take an EMV card. So they would write and code the VX805. That's one application. That's probably the biggest application right now for the 805 in retail use. I can think of a company like Subway or Jimmy John's that has an 805 or an 820. 820 is the 805 with a color screen. They have written software programs that use our terminals to do that. But it's more than that. Let's say you have a merchant that keeps the 520 behind the desk and it really isn't comfortable to have the card holder interact with that device. And remember, best practices for EMV require the card never leave the eyesight or the control of the card holder, and that the transaction be in sight of the card holder. This helps reduce fraud. The 805 can help in that arena. The 805 is a consumer-facing device that plugs into the 520 and becomes the extension of that terminal. So you can see the terminal itself has all of the attributes of the 520, but it doesn't have a printer or a modem because it doesn't need one, because it plugs into the 520. It's not a pin pad. A pin pad indicates that it is a device that only accepts a pin. This device is created so the consumer, the card holder, the merchant's customer, controls the transaction at the point of sale by entering the EMV card, by following the prompts, by entering the PIN if necessary, or by holding the phone over the top of the device so it can accept the NFC transaction. If the 520 has that type of proximity to where it's near and available to the card holder, you don't need an 805. You can run every transaction you need on the 520. But if it isn't, then you can add an 805, and it comes with its own data cable, and you can then have that extension to run between the 520 and the 805. So I mentioned an article earlier about EMV. Part of that article mentioned how small the number of transactions are that have been going on in Apple Pay. And it's kind of disappointing to me because I use Apple Pay absolutely everywhere I go. If you have an iPhone and you have Apple Pay and you use it, you know how fantastic it is. There's nothing magical in the way that the transaction leaves the phone and goes to the terminal. That's just NFC, near field communication. The magic in this comes in the application itself. You have a wallet, you have credit cards in that wallet, and you have instantaneous notification on whenever that card is used, be it a Apple Pay transaction or be it any other type of transaction. So it really is a benefit to the people who have a wallet and iPhones that use this. But our terminals can accept Google Pay as well. They can accept any NFC type of payment that is available as long as it's certified for use on the processor and as part of the payment application. So when you talk to your merchants, once again, about making life easier, do they need this? Do they need the 520 only? Or do they need the 805? And do they accept Apple Pay? And would they like to have their customers be able to use their iPhones for transactions? So we can run a contest. We love contests. I know you love contests. This slide needs to be updated. Obviously, it's no longer.
July, yeah.
Sadly, the contest is over for you, but we will run another one. And just to let you know, these are the awards. The dates are really meaningless. We can set up the dates here, instantaneously. But the top sales people will get a 250 Amazon e-gift card, 150 Amazon e-gift card, $100 Amazon e-gift card. And if you use e-gift cards, you know that they're very, very easy to use. You simply plug in the certificate number, and you can buy anything you want. So we'll do this, and we can do this more than once. We love contests because sales contests increase awareness. They also increase loyalty within the sales force, and if they're run consistently, we gain that lift in product sales, and we sustain the lift. So just to let you know, we're here to help you make more money. And we're here to help you remove obstacles. So when you have those questions at merchants, and when you have the pushback from merchants about EMV and this and that, well, you've got a little more data to deal with today. Well, more data? Sure, we got more data. Take a look at the bottom here. Everybody needs to sign up for this, the Verifone Zone. I've signed up for it as a user. Just go to verifonezone.com and sign up. What Verifone Zone will give you is the ability to pull down product slicks, images. You can sign up to attend webinars. Verifone, we give more complimentary webinars and training webinars to the market than any of our competition probably combined. If you would like to get on my mailing list, simply email me, and at the email above, not at Verifone Zone, but at timm9@verifone.com. and I'll add you to my email list. And what that is, I let all my customers know about not just Verifone updates, but about industry updates that I think are valuable and are useful to you to help you increase your business. And so whenever there's an article, for instance, I think might be of interest or some news, I forward that out to my peeps, and of course everybody here at First Financial is part of it. First Direct Financial is here on my mailing list as well. So if you'd like to get on that, just please let me know. And I think that pretty well concludes the product end of the discussion today. Be more than happy to take questions. See, I'm not just happy, I'm more than happy. I never really understood what more than happy meant, but I'm very happy to take questions, and we can certainly get started with that.
Yeah, and it appears that we've got a few up here, so and we've got a nice crowd here today as well. So Keith Wallen, great to see you on here, Keith. Let me see, it says his question, if you have a mobile application, golf cart, food truck, in order to set up the Wi-Fi for the VX680, what do you use? Cell phone, jetpack? What do you got?
Okay, great question. So the particular unit we're talking about today is a GPRS unit only. Verifone does make and manufacture a VX680 Wi-Fi. That's a different product number, and that's a different setup. For a use in a golf cart, Wi-Fi would not work too well because Wi-Fi would need to be basically enabled across the entire 18 holes, and you probably aren't going to see that. So what you would need here is a GPRS account. You need a wireless account, and you would use the wireless provider that you're using today.
Yep.
So very simple to be done, but there is a wireless fee that goes along to the merchant, and they know it, and it's customary with every one of these terminals that is set up. If you're in a situation where somebody wants 4 or 5 of these terminals in one location to use in a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth environment, I would say let Eric know, he'll let me know, and we'll direct you in the proper way to get that done.
Yeah. In other words, the equipment solution, we've got help. We mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation, guys, that here at First Direct Financial, Merchant Careers, your success means we're successful. So keep it simple at the beginning. We're going to have a test now. I want to make sure everybody knows what was on slide 17. You guys have it? Write this down. So see, that's the point, though, is that we want to make sure today that you understand we're here, and guys, we're so lucky to have Tim as part of our team, and we understand, you know, when we asked him to get on board, man, he had to clear a schedule for us. I mean, you're a very important person in your biz, and that's why what we're going to do is try to make sure that this is posted on your particular training webpage, maybe on a permanent basis. I've talked to, got a new manager here, a guy who does a great job, Matt Nichols, wants this thing up and Adam. So we will have this here maybe tucked away under Module 3 is where we will have this. This is why I'm wearing a tie today. So this thing should be up for a longer period of time because, guys, it may seem confusing. We understand some of you are just getting started, and we want you to keep it simple. I mean, we want this as simple as if you know somebody well enough at a business, get those merchant statements now before you even get any of these started. Any of your training modules, your national sales director is there to help you out, and if we need to come up with a solution like Keith had alluded to on a wireless setup, like I've got a Ram right now that he's got 15 trucks. It's like a Swans, you know, type thing, and he wants these out and about, and he wants, you know, a breakdown. He wants something that processes checks as well, and we're out in the field. So see, we can take this, you know, down the road as far as a training goes, but we don't want to confuse you. We don't want to throw too much on you. The name of the game is get those statements, and we've got people like Tim to put together the equipment solution. Don't you worry about it. We will find a way to get that merchant on board with you, your book of business, because, Tim, these guys get paid their residuals every month for as long as that customer is with us. And, guys, this is why Verifone has, you know, equipment that is going to last for an awfully long time. You know, I mean, that's something that should interest everybody that's on the presentation today is you're not going to have to go in and fiddle with this, right? Oh, the keys look bad, because everything wore out, in 1 year. And trust me, that's, you can go into that, Tim, if you choose. But guys, this has been extremely informative today. I'm not seeing any other questions. You must have just totally killed this.
Maybe hit it out of the park. Yeah. Well, then let me, if I just could spend just a minute and talk a little bit about merchants today, because they're struggling and they're confused, and they have a right to be confused because they're getting hit by all sides. They're getting hit by regulations. They're getting hit by their banks. They're getting hit by just literally everybody, and they're having a very difficult time with EMV implementation. I can't guarantee that I can make it simple. I can guarantee that I can make it easier. So when you talk about, look, this terminal, this Verifone terminal, does everything that you need it to do in order to conduct every type of transaction you want to conduct. I think that removes the barrier there. But just to let you know, when these things, when we would help write applications for our processing partners, in the past, we would help them write it, and those applications would be tested and certified and released. Not anymore. Now we have to add the card brands themselves. So the card brands, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, all have to get involved in these things now. So this is why some of these things that you might be looking for take so long to get into the terminal, because Visa may look at an application and have one problem or one issue or one question and send the whole thing back. So there's a time delay there that everyone is working on. And when I say everyone, it's us, it's the manufacturer, it's everyone trying to make these things faster. Because the essence of what we're living in today is change. Security will never get less or smaller than it is now. It's only going to stay the same and get bigger. And you need a terminal that can be able to accept those updates and be able to accept the weight of those things, is how much memory they take in order to implement, and our terminals do that. So I hope that I was able to enlighten you a little bit about who Verifone is, the great products that we make, certainly my dedication to help you be successful, and to remove roadblocks and to remove obstacles to help you do what it is you do best, which is generate new MIDs. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much, Eric, for having me here today. It was a pleasure. And if you need me, I'm an email or phone call away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tim. We really appreciate you being on here today, guys. Let me go ahead and stop the recording. Great presentation, and remember, we're gonna work that solution. Oh, there's your door.
We're running on it.
Right on. Look at that. How about that? Yeah, I've got a. Man, I've done so many of these presentations. It's almost like an internal clock. I was almost
That's right.
like, okay,
we hit it right on the nose.
Yeah, 30 minutes. I can talk all day, and I know when 30 minutes is up. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Our regional account managers, Leslie. If you've got questions, Marilyn York, Matt Nichols, good to see you on here. Penny, good to see you here. Now, Penny did have a question before I stopped the recording regarding Saturday's special presentation. I want to make sure, yes, Penny, you do need to register for each Saturday separately. The Monday through Friday, you're okay in that scenario, but Penny, I see that you're back with us. And let me show you what I'm referring to, guys. I don't want to tell you, I want to show you. What Penny her question was, do I need to register for this live Saturday webinar that starts at noon East Coast? It's an advanced training down here, so you guys go to merchantcareers.com, go to your live training tab, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you will see Saturday training. If you want to attend this Saturday's training, you'll need to register. You will also need to register for the one that we have on the third Saturday of every month. That will also be an advanced merchant sales technique training. Okay, so we've got these available, and Penny, the answer is yes. You'll need to make sure you register for those each and every time, or you will not receive your hyperlink to go ahead and join that webinar an hour before it starts. All right, so that was that. I wanted to make sure we got that in while we're recording. And again, Tim, thank you so much. Great presentation. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hit your goals for the week. You know, we're in the middle of the week. So we go over this every Monday. Have you talked to those, 10 merchants that you have scheduled? If you haven't, let's go get them. There needs to be a little urgency here because, Tim can attest to this. Once they're with somebody and they go through this switch, this EMV switch over, day late, dollar short.
Pretty much. I mean, the applications are all locked. So it's very difficult to get that merchant to flip because they may be tied into an equipment program. So, but the good news is that less than half of the merchants out there today are EMV enabled. So when you walk into that merchant and ask, "Gee, I want to use my smart card. Can I do it on this terminal?" I mean, they may get upset about EMV for a while, but you have the solution. You walked in with it.
Yes, and guys, somebody's going to get paid for each and every credit card that's getting swiped at those businesses you drive past every day. Why can't it be you? The answer is they all should be yours. Own your backyard. Do not delay. Like Tim had mentioned, 50% haven't even thought about this yet. And businesses, like you'd mentioned, are hurting. I mean, this is something that, if anyone thinks, oh, the economy is going to get better, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. But listen, bottom line, saving money. This is a war. We had mentioned that earlier. So you are equipped with the best backing with Merchant Careers. Your NSD is there. They'll get on the phone with the merchant with you. And then you've got people like Tim that are going to help us out on the solution regarding the equipment and putting that together so the merchant is getting what he needs, not too much, not too little, and he's going to be a happy camper for a long time. So residual income is a beautiful thing, but you got to go get it. Go get it. Thank you very much. Eric Rogers here. And Tim, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Great presentation.